What is AWS VPC, and why is it used? AWS VPC, Virtual Private Cloud, allows users to provision logically isolated sections of the AWS cloud, enabling greater control over network settings and security. It's used to create a private, isolated network in the cloud. How do you configure IP addressing in an AWS VPC? You can configure IP addressing in a VPC by creating subnets, associating them with a route table, and assigning IP addresses to instances launched in those subnets. Explain the difference between a public subnet and a private subnet in AWS VPC. In a public subnet, instances have direct access to the Internet through an Internet gateway, while in a private subnet, instances can access the Internet only through a Network Address Translation (NAT) gateway or NAT instance. What is an Internet Gateway, IGW, in AWS VPC? An Internet Gateway allows communication between instances in a VPC and the Internet. It facilitates inbound and outbound traffic and is required for instances in a public subnet to connect to the Internet. How does Network Address Translation (NAT) work in AWS VPC? NAT allows instances in a private subnet to initiate outbound traffic to the Internet while preventing inbound traffic from reaching them directly. This is achieved using a NAT gateway or a NAT instance in a public subnet. What is the purpose of a route table in AWS VPC? A route table determines where network traffic is directed. It contains a set of rules, called routes, that are used to determine where network traffic is directed. Subnets are associated with a route table, influencing the flow of traffic.
Explain Elastic Load Balancing (ELB) and its role in AWS VPC. ELB distributes incoming application traffic across multiple targets, such as Amazon EC2 instances, in one or more availability zones. It enhances the availability and fault tolerance of applications. How does Security Group differ from Network ACL in AWS VPC? Security groups act at the instance level and control inbound and outbound traffic based on security group rules. Network ACLs, on the other hand, operate at the subnet level and evaluate traffic based on rules for both inbound and outbound traffic.
What is the purpose of Amazon VPC peering? VPC peering allows connection between two VPCs, enabling them to communicate using private IP addresses. It is useful for scenarios where resources in different VPCs need to interact securely. Explain the concept of a Bastion host in AWS VPC. A Bastion host is a secure instance that acts as a gateway for connecting to instances in a private subnet. It's commonly used for secure access to instances without exposing them directly to the Internet. How do you secure data in transit within an AWS VPC? Data in transit within a VPC can be secured by using protocols like HTTPS for web traffic and VPN or Direct Connect for private connectivity. Additionally, security groups and network ACLs can be configured to control traffic. What is the AWS Direct Connect service, and how does it enhance AWS VPC connectivity? AWS Direct Connect is a dedicated network connection from on-premises to AWS. It provides a private and reliable connection, reducing network costs, and improving bandwidth between the on-premises data center and AWS VPC. How can you achieve high availability in AWS VPC? High availability in AWS VPC can be achieved by distributing instances across multiple availability zones, using elastic load balancing, and implementing auto-scaling to ensure redundancy and fault tolerance. Explain the purpose of VPC flow logs in AWS. VPC flow logs capture information about IP traffic going to and from network interfaces in a VPC. It helps in analyzing and monitoring network traffic, identifying potential security issues, and troubleshooting connectivity issues. How do you configure a VPC endpoint in AWS, and what is its purpose? A VPC endpoint allows private connectivity from a VPC to supported AWS services without traversing the internet. You can create VPC endpoints for services like Amazon S3 or DynamoDB, enhancing security and reducing data transfer costs. What is AWS Transit Gateway, and how does it simplify VPC connectivity? AWS Transit Gateway enables seamless and scalable connectivity between VPCs, on-premises networks, and remote networks. It simplifies network architecture by acting as a central hub for routing traffic. How can you secure data at rest within an AWS VPC? Data at rest within a VPC can be secured by using services like Amazon RDS with encryption, Amazon EBS encryption for storage volumes, and managing encryption keys through AWS Key Management Service, KMS. Explain the purpose of Amazon VPC endpoints for S3. VPC endpoints for S3 enable direct access to Amazon S3 from a VPC without traversing the internet. This enhances security, reduces data transfer costs, and improves overall performance. How does AWS VPN Cloud Hub provide connectivity between multiple remote networks and an AWS VPC? AWS VPN Cloud Hub allows multiple on-premises networks to connect to a VPC, forming a hub-and-spoke architecture. Each on-premises network connects to the VPC using a VPN connection, simplifying network management. What is AWS Site-to-Site VPN, and when is it used? AWS Site-to-Site VPN establishes a secure connection between an on-premises data center and an AWS VPC. It is used when a dedicated connection is required for data transfer, and security considerations demand a private connection. How can you monitor and troubleshoot network issues in AWS VPC? Monitoring and troubleshooting in AWS VPC can be done using tools like CloudWatch, VPC flow logs, and AWS config. These tools help in gaining insights, detecting issues, and troubleshooting network-related problems. Explain the concept of Route 53 Resolver in the context of AWS VPC. Route 53 Resolver is a DNS resolution. Thanks for watching and subscribe for more videos. All the best for interview.